I'm Carol Cohn, and welcome to Purpose 360, the podcast that unlocks the power of purpose to ignite business and social impact. Today's conversation is a very special one for me. I'm joined by Lysa Ratliff, CEO of KABOOM, and this is an organization that's very close to my heart. Years ago, I had the privilege of working with Kimberly-Clark when they were seeking a very special partner to celebrate their 125th anniversary. We learned of the emerging not-for-profit KABOOM that helped communities design and build playgrounds to provide play equity for their children. Kimberly-Clark embraced this idea and built 38 playgrounds in just 6 months, including one at a national gathering of government leaders, including Vice President Al Gore and Colin Powell. So this conversation comes full circle for me. In this episode, we dig into a bold idea that play spaces are not a nice to have, but essential community infrastructure, and that play space inequity has real consequences for childhood development, public health, equity, and long-term economic outcomes. Lysa shares how KABOOM has evolved from building playgrounds one at a time, and let me tell you, it's a lot of fun, and it gives you great satisfaction. But they've evolved into a leading, strategic, data-driven approach to systems change, working with cities, school districts, and major corporate partners to scale impact. We talk about leadership when the work is hard, how collective action actually works in practice, and why investing in joy for children may be one of the smartest long-term strategies leaders can make. If you care about purpose, partnerships, and how to turn bold ideas into lasting impact, this is a conversation that you'll thoroughly enjoy. So let's get started. Welcome to the show, Lysa. I know this is going to be a great conversation.
Oh, I am so happy to be here, Carol. I am a big fan, going way back. and it's an honor. It is an absolute honor to be here with you and to be able to talk about my beloved work at KABOOM.
Well, we love the work at KABOOM. So I'd love to start and congratulations. It's your 30th anniversary this year. Yeah.
Happy birthday.
So I think you'll probably got some things up your sleeve that we're going to talk about in a bit. But let's just tell a little bit about yourself and why do you do the work that you do?
When I look back on my life, I look back to my childhood. And that was really the first seed that was planted for me to show up here leading KABOOM. As my first formed memory is I was at the playground and wanted to be cool. And all the kids knew how to jump off the swing really high and then jump off. And I was like, oh, I'll do it. And I was scared out of my body, but I did it. And I landed on my stomach and I passed out.
Oh.
And I when I came to, the first thought, and I remember this like it was yesterday, the first thought was, oh my gosh, I'm never going to do that again. I wanted to start crying. And the group of kids around me were like, yes, that was so cool. And I jumped up and I was like, I got back on that swing and I did it again. And anybody who knows me now knows like I am willing to take risks. I'm really willing to jump when other people don't. And so I look back on my life to that first moment on the playground, recognizing that was the first of many moments along the way that allowed me to be in this space. I love children. I believe that our life is finite and that while we're here, that we need to leave a lasting legacy. Leave something behind that's better than we walked into. And for me, that is wrapped up into investing in our kids. And so I'm here in the center of my purpose, doing everything I can.
Yeah, well, you were a risk taker from a really early age. So I always love to ask, what sort of influence did your parents have on you that contributed to this risk taking or your love of protecting childhood? I'm just really curious about that.
My parents were very young when they had me, 15 and 16. They were kids and raising a kid. And my mom and her mother lived by a guiding principle that was life isn't forever, love is. That is on my mom's headstone. That is on my grandmother's headstone. And it is the thing that she said throughout my life that really taught me about legacy and about loving and about like seeing the best in people. And that when you engage with others, you show up with love and care. And so my mom taught me that, and it has certainly influenced how I show up, how I lead, and my dad is, the other side of that coin. My dad is resilient, tough. You can do hard things. And the thing that he taught me that sticks, that I actually am teaching my own children now, is there's always a solution. Doesn't matter what the problem, you just got to look somewhere else, or you got to think about it a different way. But there is always a way to solve a problem. And that you have the unique abilities to be able to solve it. And those two lessons that my parents taught me, they show up all the time. They are the lessons I'm teaching my kids. They are the way I lead the organization. They are the way I live my life.
It's very interesting how our parents imprint on us. So I would love to start this conversation out about KABOOM's origin story. Some of our listeners know you, some don't, but if you could share it, that would be great.
Our origin story is a really powerful story. So we were born in DC, and we were born because a young brother and sister, Aisha and Clendon, like kids will, they wanted to play and they were looking for somewhere to play. And they lived in a community that didn't have any play spaces. And the place that they found to play was an abandoned car. It was August. It was hot. And they got in that car and they started playing, but they ended up losing their lives in the car. A reporter then caught wind of the story and went out and just started doing some investigating and realized that not only had the community been advocating and waving the flag that we have a problem here, there's nowhere for our kids, but that in fact, there was nowhere in this community to play. Had been no investments made in the infrastructure for kids. We're building these communities and houses and places for people to live, and we're not designing like kids live here. Our founder, Daryl, he caught wind of this story and he recognized that I can solve this. I can help. I can find a way to help. I can pool resources and friends and other like-minded people together, and we can figure out what's needed in this community, and we can roll up our sleeves and we can get to building. And with that became the single spark to start a fire that has formed KABOOM today. The hard part is we're still dealing with very similar issues where our kids, there's inequitable investment in our kids' childhood and infrastructure and resources, and our kids don't have what they need for a thriving childhood. So that founding story gave us the blueprint that has grown and evolved 30 years later. Happy birthday to us into the work that we do today.
So let's set the stage now. So we do have this incredible, kind of repertoire between the two of us, repartee. Okay, so why does access to play matter so deeply for children and communities?
Before I came to KABOOM, I had been doing work in housing and in education, and I had been in Blackville, South Carolina, building a school library at an elementary school. Another August hot day, it was like 102 degrees, really hot, and building this wonderful library for a school that really needed it. And this little girl, I still have a picture of her, and on my wall framed, I have a picture of that playground. Her name was Brianna, and she was so happy just to see these 30 people from all over, as I say, the children from all over coming into the community doing something special. And she took my hand and she was like, "Miss Lysa, can I show you our playground?" I know that she saw it as her opportunity to share what was important to her. And so she took me outside and she was like, "I love that you guys are building this library, but we really need a playground." And I'll tell you what, before then, I knew because my memories of childhood playgrounds are important. I didn't recognize through a child's eyes how important those spaces are until Brianna showed me that playground, and it was horrific. It was unusable. And she said, "What I really want is to be able to play." And so for us, play space equity is really about making sure that we have an equal distribution of safe, accessible places for children to play. The issue of place-based inequity follows the same equity lines of other spaces of inequity across our country around race and income and geography. And so, very long answer to make sure that we're grounded in the recognition that all people, some people, when they think about play spaces and the importance of them, they're like, oh, yeah, that's cute, slides and swings. Aren't those at the schools? No, they're not. We have a real issue because we're not prioritizing our kids. We're not thinking about equal distribution of resources in spaces that matter to them. We've got schools that only have blacktops to play in. We have states that don't even have recess policies where there's mandatory recess. And we have a real issue around making sure that this critical community asset exists.
So, as your mission is to end place-based inequity for good, can you talk about one or two points in time, these pivot points, where you got in front of legislators or mayors or municipal leaders or corporations? You have great partners, by the way, and you helped to shape this as an urgent issue. You said it. It's not about a cute place with the swings and the playground and everything's colorful and you've got some nice trees and garden. This is urgent. So, what were some of those pivot points and key messages that you really embedded in people to get them to recognize this is something bigger?
Our strongest conversation when we talk to municipal leaders, to corporate leaders, to philanthropic investors is, there's a big picture issue that we're trying to solve. Essentially, the leaders that we are started when we were 4 and 5 years old. And the investments or the lack of investments that we are making in our children will result in either strong abilities to lead in the future or a deficit that we're going to have to make up for that's going to cause damage to our communities, our cities, our country. When we talk about play spaces, we talk in a couple of layers. One, this is a solvable issue. Our organization can now come in and through what we call Place-Based Inequity Prioritization Index, a mouthful, we can tell you where the need is. We can provide a roadmap for where we need to solve this problem. In doing so, in solving the problem, we don't just lean into making sure kids have a happy, healthy childhood that links to critical outcomes like improved health, improved wellness, addresses mental health issues, within that space that we build shows better community and economic investment, that we are also building in such a way that is not limited to driving outcomes, but it is also bringing communities together at a time where we need it.
So it's that consolidation. It's like the square. It's like the city square, but
Yes.
This is a city square for the child, where the child can truly engage in its whole self, which I love. You also have taken playgrounds and play spaces down to 0 to 5. And I think that that's very, very astute. What caused that to happen?
Anybody who looks into this knows that a child's trajectory is set very early on. And in fact, it starts with like a healthy birth, right? It starts when a child is in the womb. For us, those habits and those things that develop a very early brain, very early habits, they happen much younger than elementary school. They're happening at 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 years old. And kids learn through play. So you think about all of the things that a child needs to learn at that age. They need to learn how to use their body, to negotiate the world. They need to learn how to recognize letters, numbers, safety risks, just all of the things that really end up being usable in elementary school are actually happening at 0 to 5. And so for us, knowing the currency of kids and it being play and how they learn, it became really important for us to extend where we build and the age group that we build for not just to early childhood, but also to youth. Youth who often, like, we build play spaces in elementary school and maybe middle school. There's some spaces for kids to be able to go in their communities. But young people who often don't have a place in their community, it's important for us to be thinking about them as well. So all these stages of childhood, it is important for us to be thinking very clearly about how do we make sure that we design and respond to their needs, their developmental, their belonging needs along the way.
So I would be remiss if I didn't. Let's dial it back for a minute. Talk about the process, because it's quite a unique process of co-creation, and it's really important. It's not KABOOM coming in and, well, here are 3 models and you can pick one model to fit. That's not it at all. Share with our listeners who aren't familiar with KABOOM how the process works.
I get asked this question all the time, and it's sometimes difficult to answer because it's always different. it's
That's
it's
one of
becoming
its hallmarks. I mean, that's why it
yes.
works.
And our team kind of gives me a hard time about this because we're doing hard work because it's all always different. And but that's where the work is. So essentially, our process, and and again, at a macro level, you think about our mission and making sure that we have a path to achieve our mission, which is ending place-based inequity for good. That data is important. So we are always looking at the data across our country, within our communities, within geographic boundaries that allows us to see where the best use of our resources will be because that community doesn't have them and will not be able to solve this problem without us. So that's at a macro level. But day to day, we build playgrounds. So we are an organization, if it's not clear, that builds play spaces. And those play spaces can be nature exploration areas. They can be your traditional playground. They can be multi-generational spaces. And they look different because we work with the community. And so our job is to be very responsive to what the kids want to see, what the communities want to see, and what our partners and municipalities and child serving organizations want to see. And we're equipped to respond to them. So we hold a design day and different design sessions
Love
where,
those. They're so
yeah,
fun. Yeah.
the
The
kids are
kids
at
go,
the
kids are
table with it.
crazy. Yeah, I want a giant dinosaur and I want to like dive off the dinosaur into the pool and splash around and not get wet and crazy stuff.
Yes. Yes, a lot of zip lines to the moon. A lot of zip
Love
lines to
that.
the moon.
I love
Kids
that.
want to
Okay.
zip line to the moon. But that's part of our process. And that's really what does a couple of things for us. One, it makes sure that our play spaces are unique and they are used and cherished and protected by the communities that we build them with. It also makes sure that, for us, embedded in our theory of change is requires people to use the play spaces. And so our KABOOM playgrounds are typically 3 to 4 times more used than just dropping in a playground. It's because of that process. It's because we ask the community, we recognize the assets that exist in the community, we respond to them wherever we can. Like we're on a journey like everyone else, limited by resources, but we respond as best as we can to the community.
Talk about the build day because it's been designed and then all the equipment's ordered and then you get the land all prepared, land sometimes donated. And then what's the essence and the magic? It's usually a day or it might be a weekend and you start with a dirt lot and then all of a sudden at the end of the weekend there it is and there's a huge celebration. Just share that. It's so exciting.
Oh, it's magic. I'm not going to lie. In some cases now, with some of the work we're doing, we're working for years with a community to build multiple spaces. The kind of more traditional work that you're describing is we do that design day. We decide we're all going to come together and we're going to build a play space in Baltimore. And we're working with the leaders of the school, the students, the mayor's office in this case, our peers at Parks and People, and we're designing that place and we're all engaged in it. And then 6 weeks later, we organize a day that here's the blueprints. Together, the 150 of us are going to build this playground. There's music playing. The community has mobilized all their assets to order
Lots of food. Lots of food. That helps.
food.
Yeah.
We're a little zany at times. So there's, sometimes little headbands with, alien antennas on them. We're here to let's have some fun and play while we build play spaces. But within that day, there is a lot of order and an organization where subgroups divide. And this is on our volunteer project. Subgroups divide and they're building swings and they are painting benches and they're moving mulch. And then at the end of the day, usually around 2:30, everybody's wipes the sweat off their face and they look back and it's like, wait, we just built that playground.
It is. Oh, it's absolutely magical. I don't know. Is there one or two builds? I know I'm sure that you've been on some, but that you recall the occasion that you said, "Wow, this is a story I really want to tell."
I spend a lot of time at our playground builds. It fuels me, especially this past year. This past year has been really heavy and all the joy of us is on a KABOOM playground site. So they've been really special for me this past year, but we've done work in Uvalde, Texas. We've now built about 12 playgrounds there since the shooting at Robb Elementary. And the first playground that we built, we was shortly after the shooting and went into a community that was raw with grief and anger and loss and just the worst possible things that we can go through as parents and community members and caregivers, lost children. And so we went into that community and we built our first play space and we had to really navigate working with families that were going through the loss and anguish of their children. And so, this is 4 or 5 months later where things are still very tense. And we say, if it's helpful, we will create a space of safety and joy and legacy for the children that lost their lives here. And so we did that work and we built that play space. And after we finished building the play space, we had a day where we just had the parents come and they brought these little plaques that we had designed that were symbols for each of their kids.
Oh,
And built within the playground would be a treasure hunt for anyone who played on it. And there was there is a sign when you walk into it, and it has the butterfly and the basketball and the symbols that would be found within the playground that represent the children that are no longer with us, but who in spirit live in this space. And in that moment, so I was there with the families and I just stepped back and watched them with their little plaques, finding a special spot on the playground. After weeks and months of building and planning and grieving with them and really finding some small sense of peace and healing in that moment to honor their children. And I tell you what, it just I have chills and I want to cry just thinking about it because, we know that play heals. We know that the way that we work brings some joy, but in the hardest of times, to be able to offer just a little space of healing and hope meant something really special and reminded us as an organization that the work we do can be fun and joyous and problem solving, but it also can play a role in helping people to heal just by being connected to each other and honoring, in this case, the legacy of those they love.
beautiful story. And the work was so sensitive because of the process that you do. Congratulations for helping them in a very, very tough time. So you talk a lot about, and you did this in Uvalde, and also I know you did in Oakland and Baltimore, which is you bring it's collective action. It's bringing the different layers of the groups together. And that's how you also can scale. That's how you go beyond a one-off. It's nice. We love it. It's great. But to a citywide ecosystem that's going to truly embrace not just the children, but they're caregivers and their parents and their aunts and uncles and grandparents. Can you share some insights into how do you get the various layers of this collective action together? Again, the issue is not seen, many might not see it urgent, and how you make that really stick.
One of the reasons that we're able to do what we do, especially in these recent years where we're doing hard work. we're trying to make sure that we don't come in and out of community, that we come and help be a supportive problem solver. And so a big piece of it is humility, is coming into a community, whatever it looks like, whether it's the community members or it is the mayor or municipal leaders or business leaders, and listening. So I'm sitting here in Maryland, and yet we're doing work in Oakland, California, and doing great work there and have strong partnerships, almost like they're just right across the street. We come in and we listen. We come in and we make sure that we first understand the lay of the land, and that, we don't want to come in if we can't stay. If you want a partner to help lock arms with you and solve a problem, we are trying to move into a chapter where we come in and we understand your aspirations, your challenges, the opportunities, the other people that we can bring to the table or that you already have at the table. And we want to stay. We want to help you realize the vision you have. So a lot of it is that listening. And then, we're 30 years old and we've been through some things, not 150, but we're 30 years old and we've been through some things. We're gritty. We, have done a lot of work, got a lot of battle wounds. And so we bring an offer. We bring a capability to bring people together. We bring a capability to work with the best of the playground manufacturers and designers and resources. And so in listening and then offering the best of us, especially in spaces where resources might be strained, whether it's financial resources or human resources where they can tap into our talent and knowledge and expertise, that is really our ingredient for success. How can we add value while also making sure that value is directed toward what their aspirations are and what their needs and gaps are?
So I love it. You talk about humility, lots of listening to co-create, add significant value. So that leads me to, you have some great long-term partners, because we worked with Home Depot and they still are an amazing partner. I also see you have a new partner that's doing a lot, CarMax. And so for our listeners, and we have senior executives, and we have middle managers, and we have not-for-profits and for-profits, looking for a way to truly express their values in action and getting incredible employee engagement. What's the secret sauce to not just getting the partner, because you got a great idea, but it's keeping the partner? I'm curious about that.
Our partners recognize that, the work that we do, one, is tangible. So
Exactly. Very
KABOOM.
tangible, right?
Yeah, there's care in listening to the community and working with the community leaders. And so there's a little bit of a shortcut to problem solving in a collective way that companies and philanthropy appreciates. And then, you talk about CarMax, and CarMax has been an extraordinary partner. And what has really set a partner like CarMax is same with, I would say, Eat, Learn, Play Foundation on the West Coast.
With Steph Curry, that's amazing.
With Steph and
work.
Aisha Curry.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
gosh, they're incredible. But what has really allowed us as a whole to evolve and transform and do better work and bring more value to cities and mayors and municipalities is the investment from an organization like CarMax that says, yeah, we're going to do all these things that engage our employees and build these tangible spaces for kids and communities. And also, we hear you when you say you want to innovate. We hear you when you say that communities are asking for different types of play infrastructure. We're leaning into some pretty cool technology around measuring joy on the playground, AI. we have partners who say, yes, we're going to invest in this, and we are going to allow you to use some of our resources to make investments in your work that will provide better solutions over time. And so you look at our traditional work, which is a 2,200 square foot play space, to the work we're doing with Eat, Learn, Play Foundation, where we're renovating 15,000 square foot schoolyards. That comes from partners who say, yeah, I want to benefit from all these things. I want to have fun. I want to solve problems. I want to engage my employees. I want to contribute to better economic outcomes of the cities that our employees work in. But I also understand that we can do better, and we are going to invest in better. And then we're fast and scrappy. 6 months later, in walks a multi-generational space or a nature exploration area, because we figured out how to do it because a partner said it was okay for us to use some of their investment in it.
You talk about that it's really important to also engage the environment and public health wrapping into what your play spaces deliver. Do you build towards environmental action or an appropriate facility? Or how is that baked in? And also the public health aspect?
On public health and even childhood health aspect, like there's all the things that we know, more activity, more play reduces chronic disease, reduces healthcare costs, community investment perspective, better play spaces, better parks, increases property values, reduces crime, strengthens social cohesion. And so for kids and their caregivers who are physically active, who are using this space, who are utilizing it as a space of wellness, stepping away from technology and addiction to devices, there are individual health outcomes that are really important. From an environmental perspective, we've been leaning deeply into this. So you can't care about with kids without caring about the environment. And I think about the environment with a big E and a little e. Kind of big E is the temperatures they will inherit, the green spaces that will exist 10, 15 years from now. And so our work, we have really doubled down on an environmental overlay to our efforts. So we're building city infrastructure. And we're building city infrastructure in a way that is all the things that I've described, which is really cool and joyous and fun and addresses play inequities. But it also needs to be built in responsible ways that provide more green cover. You think about where we're working as an organization that's on a mission to achieve place-based equity, that have a lot of kind of heat islands and not a lot of green space. And so as we get more resources, we are making sure that we're thinking about stormwater runoff and how do we integrate the surfaces that will support any stormwater runoff. How do we make sure that there's greenery in that space to have a cooling effect? We made a commitment to the 1 trillion tree campaign to plant 5,000 trees. There's a practical side of this. Our planet is heating up, and in some parts of the country, if you don't account for shade and green and trees, then they're not usable and burn their little bottoms on the slide. And then the lowercase e really just, it goes back to the individual health perspective. I pause because this is just like, it's deep in my heart. Our babies are facing so much. And by our babies, I mean, our 15-year-olds, our 10-year-olds, our 5-year-olds, our 2-year-olds. Our babies are coming into a world that, one, is quite frankly very toxic for them. But it's also, at a very critical brain development, physical development time, developmental time. They are, to put it blunt, they're addicted to devices. Within those devices holds the experiences of the world. So all you need is internet access and a couple of passwords, and you see just all the trauma that's going on out here. If you take a step back as an adult and you think about what is that doing to a young mind, a young development mind that's being developed, where the brain growth is most rapid, how they see and negotiate the world, and how their space in it is being developed. And yet they are exposed to all these potentially traumatizing things. You have to think about how you can remedy that. How can you get them into real space that literally calms the temperature of their bodies and allows them physically to re-regulate by being exposed to nature, by being exposed to natural, pure things that reconnect them to our greatest source, the earth, and each other. We've got to make sure that we're combating against that, because if you care about kids, you care about making sure that we are combating what they are facing and that we are protecting their future. And so we are leaning deeply into environmental design and into the protection and care and wellness of our kids by rethinking what that design looks like.
So you get a letter, a call, an email or something from Mackenzie Scott. And it is that we like to, and Mackenzie Scott, very thoughtful about where all of her funds are going, and I adore her. What did you do? What happened? What was going on when you all of a sudden you found out? It was like, oh my God, $14 million.
I started crying.
You started crying.
I literally, there was, like I said, there was some due diligence, and I had talked to some folks, and I'd sent some data and historical information and answered some questions. And so I knew maybe this is a possibility. I'll tell you what, I've been leading the organization for 4 years. I've been here for 10 years, and I took over leadership during the pandemic. And I was like, okay, yes, I'm a go-getter and problem solver. And privately, I was afraid because playgrounds were closed. Volunteers weren't coming together. So this is the time all this gift happened. And I was trying to figure out, how do we transform and pivot this organization to be better equipped to solve the problem? So all these things were happening at once. And I just would wake up and go to sleep thinking about the staff and the people that were counting on us to do good work while playgrounds were closed. And that was heavy. Like, that weight was really, really heavy. And I just kept thinking two things. One, if there was the breathing room to get through this moment. Yeah. And then if only there's the investment.
You manifested it.
Yeah, to allow us to become who we could become.
Yeah.
And so all of the stress released in that moment. I was like a sobbing baby, crying and relieved and excited, and
great.
had to roll up my sleeves and get to work.
That's wonderful. I want to ask a question about AI, because I ask all of our guests on the show, what's the role of AI in your work?
A couple of things. One, the practical side. So we're, using AI to improve efficiencies. We're limited by resources. So we're making self-investments at this point and using to create efficiencies, all of those things that we know at a basic level AI can do to help be a thought partner, to analyze trends, to take meeting notes. What we're really leaning into on a more innovative side is utilizing AI to help us design and imagine play spaces through a different lens. What do kind of landscape solutions and design solutions look like that are created with the support of AI that has all of these overlays, whether it be the environmental overlay or innovation overlay? What can design look like? What can the next stage of design look like by utilizing something like AI?
As we get to the bottom of the show, which has been fabulous, I'm going to do some rapid questions, and you get to answer with a word or two or a phrase. So the first one, what's one word that best describes the future you're working toward at KABOOM?
Equitable.
Equitable, of course. All right.
Yes. What's true for one needs to be true for all.
There you go. Okay. What keeps you hopeful in the days this work feels heavy?
God, undoubtedly. Kids. All you got to do is look at those giggles, hear those giggles, look at their joy, look at their resilience, how they problem solve. Actually, we learn something from it. Kids give me a lot of hope.
What's a leadership lesson you've learned from kids?
The joy is productive.
I love it. It's great. Okay. What small action can people take to make their communities more equitable today?
This is an interesting one. I'd say go beyond your zone. Whatever your zone looks like, your friendship zone, your geographic zone, your social bubble, go beyond your zone and see and experience and hear and listen and learn something different than what you know.
Those are great answers. I always give the last word and hand the mic over to my guest. So what would you like to conclude? Would you like to underscore something that you've already said, something new? Maybe there's potential partners out there, but the last word or words. You could have more than one word. Goes to you, Lysa.
We're doing great work here, and we need partners. We're 30 years old this year, and we're going to be issuing a State of Our Kids report this year. We're leaning deeply into making sure that our kids are acknowledged and seen, and we need partnership and support. No partners, no resources, no mission. And so I do ask people to stop and pay attention and see that what we're doing, there's a business case for it, there's a social case for it, and it matters. The last word I will leave with, if you haven't caught it, I'm very hopeful. It's heavy out here and we're all watching and experiencing and being affected by the heaviness. And yet within it is the hope of us. I see it every day on a KABOOM site. I see it in the communities and volunteers that we work with. The best of us is out here with our sleeves rolled up, making things happen. And so more, please. And just when it feels heavy, just know that there's hope in our collective action.
Thank you, Lysa Ratliff. You are amazing. I'm so thrilled we finally got together on this. And I know maybe when I bring you back, you're going to go, you know what, Carol? You flipped a switch and no one says no anymore. That would be great.
I'm going big with my ass. Carol told me to.
Okay, that's great. Okay, super. So thanks for joining us and keep up the wonderful work. And I will make some introductions after our conversation is over.
Thank you so much, Carol.
This podcast was brought to you by some amazing people, and I'd love to thank them. Ann Hundertmark and Kristen Kenny at Carol Cone on Purpose, Pete Wright and Andy Nelson, our crack production team at True Story FM, and you, our listener. So please rate and rank us, because we really want to be as high as possible as one of the top business podcasts available, so that we can continue exploring together the importance and the activation of authentic purpose. Thanks so much for listening.